response. We've taken a roll call, and all commissioners are attending with us by telephone conference or by other means. And at this time, I will read some statements from the statutes regarding our rationale and reasons for having a telephone conference or virtual conference due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Number one, it's been determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the related peacetime emergency declaration made by Governor Walz in accordance with Minnesota Statutes Chapter 12. Number two, we have ensured that all members of the body participating in the meeting, wherever their physical location, can hear one another, can hear all discussion and testimony offered by today's meeting. Number three, we have ensured that members of the public present at the regular meeting location of the body can hear all discussion and testimony and all votes of the members of the body. We have urged the public not to attend this meeting in person because of the COVID pandemic and have ensured that members of the public can view and monitor the meeting remotely in real time by broadcasting the meeting on the Cook County website. Number four, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have determined that it may be unfeasible for County Auditor Brady Powers, County Attorney Molly Hicken, County Administrator Rena Rogers, and members of the Board of Commissioners to be physically present at the county boardroom at the Cook County Courthouse. Number five, all votes will be conducted by roll call, so each member's vote on each issue will be identified and recorded. Would you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll go forward to any adjustments to the agenda. I've asked Grace Ganager or Mike Keyport or anyone else at this time if you have any comments about the travel advisory. We will do that under our discussion and action related to the ELC Incident Command Team update. In that regard, I have not heard anything, but I think we mentioned to the public that we would have discussion on the travel advisory at each of our meetings, so we'll do it there. With that, do we have any other adjustments to the agenda? Please state your name if you have that, and I'll recognize you. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Commissioner Mills. Oh, I'll second then, Commissioner Mills.
Okay. Was that Commissioner Storley that made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On confirmation and support by Commissioner Mills. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Commissioner Duker.
Aye. Over.
Commissioner Bashaw.
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Mills.
This is Commissioner Mills. Aye. Over.
Commissioner Storley.
Aye. Over.
And Commissioner Bersheim votes aye. Unanimously passes. A public comment period. This is an opportunity for citizens to make reports to the board, or if someone's in attendance, they may do so at this time. I'll turn it over to Rena Rogers for any that you have received or would recognize at the meeting today.
There is no one present for public comment, and I have not received any requests for public comment.
Okay, good. Well, then let's go to the third agenda item, discussion and action related to COVID-19 pandemic response. Our Emergency Operations Command Incident Command Team update from Grace Ganager and Mike Keyport. We've already started with Grace, so should we start with you, again today, Grace?
Sure, that works for me. So I'll start with the case count as of yesterday, June 1st. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began, 25,208 people in Minnesota have tested positive for the virus. 19,441 no longer need to isolate. And just this past Friday, we passed the 1,000 death mark. And as of yesterday, 1,050 Minnesotans have died from the virus. This past week, 3,893 additional people tested positive for COVID-19 throughout the states. There are still no lab-confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Cook County. Protests surrounding racially based police brutality in the Twin Cities, subsequent civil unrest, as well as cleanup and relief efforts in the Twin Cities metro area will lead to a surge in COVID-19 cases throughout Minnesota. This will worsen pre-existing health inequities in communities of color throughout our states. To date, Black communities represent 6% of the state's population and over 22% of our positive COVID-19 cases. This past week on Thursday and Friday, the MPH lab closed due to the civil unrest. However, it is back open and processing COVID-19 tests as of yesterday. Updates from the Emergency Operations Center this week include I worked with Diane Booth to get metal health and safety signs for the 2 playgrounds, skate park, and community garden. They are being designed right now and should be printed and ready to go within the next few weeks. Elsa Lundy will start as our Emergency Response Initiative AmeriCorps member on June 9th. I've been preparing for her arrival by connecting with food access programs throughout the community, where she will learn about hunger-related needs and provide on-the-ground support to our nonprofit partners. Kristen DeRuda Wharton was offered and accepted the health educator position. Pending board approval at next week's regular board meeting and a background check, she plans to begin on June 15th. She will train on and provide contact tracing through a regional initiative with the Minnesota Department of Health, support preparedness planning efforts, and work toward priorities outlined in the county's community health improvement plan. I continue to get questions from business owners and employees regarding preparedness planning to look for creative ways to support local businesses as they adapt to the context of the pandemic. The community support line is live. The number is 218-877-7071, and we are beginning to publicize it through social media, media release, paper flyers, and the hub site. We are working on a project to put local COVID testing numbers onto the hub site and to create an educational video on what COVID testing looks like locally. The hub site was redesigned to reflect changes to grocery stores and updated business information with reopening details. We're planning a PSA on WTIP that comes as a joint message from PHHS, Sawtooth Mountain Clinic, and North Shore Health, reminding everyone to do their part to slow the spread of COVID-19. We're also planning a panel on WTIP with Dr. Farshman, who's acting as the medical director for COVID response at Sawtooth Mountain Clinic, Matthew Baxley, who is part of our behavioral response team within the Emergency Operations Center, as well as myself. The panel will be around the topic of figuring out how to navigate safety and risk in the context of COVID-19. They are taking questions at the station, and the show will be on June 10th at 7 p.m. I received positive feedback from the businesses involved with the economic reopening group on the revised travel advisory that the board passed last week. And that is all I have for this week.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for what you're doing. Any comments or questions? We'll go by roll call. Commissioner Mills?
This is Commissioner Mills. Thank you, Grace, for update. I don't have any questions. Thank you for your continued work and attention. Over.
Okay. I should also add, if you've heard anything about the travel advisory, if you would like to share that with the rest of us this time too. And Commissioner Mills, did you have any comment on that?
It just what Grace said about the economic reopening group, having appreciating the revision, and I asked them to please give any further feedback, and that I'm anticipating the board would like to revisit it anytime there's changes or need arises. So
very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just forgot to preface that again.
Yep.
Commissioner Storley?
Yes, I received a couple comments, but they were in favor of supporting what we supported, so that part was good. I do have a question, Grace. Of the over 19,000 that you reported, and did I understand it was in quarantine, or does the 19,000 also include those who have recuperated from the virus?
Sure. So those 19,000, they've recuperated, or they've either recuperated or they have passed away. They're no longer isolating at home.
Oh, okay. So if they
else.
passed away, that would be part of the death, wouldn't it? In that number? Is that included then?
That number includes both the deaths and people who have recovered and are no longer isolating at home. That number is just people who are no longer isolating at home. So it includes both deaths and...
Okay. All right. Thanks. And again, thanks for all that you're working on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeShaw?
No questions.
Commissioner Duker?
Thank you, Grace, and thanks for all the extra updates and the work that you're doing. That's all I have.
Thank you. I would just like to thank you again, like every week, for the remarkable work you're doing in our community. And we're just so much better working together, and you're a big part of that, as well as Mike Keyport. So we'll go to you, Mike. Do you have any updates for us? Thanks for your work as well, as I mentioned.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, community members. I'll just speak to the only thing I've heard about the travel advisory was more opinions by two people that just said that people traveling up here will likely not take the time to find that information. If they choose to come up here, they're going to come up here. So that's the only thing I heard regarding the travel advisory. Other things, our EOC, of course, remains open. We continue to look at emergency protective measures for the COVID response. However, with the recent civil unrest, Jim and I will also be working on looking at preparedness should we get some type of civil unrest here in the county. So we'll have kind of a dual challenges there. We continue to gather PPE likely to be used for county employees. Things we have purchased include gloves, hand sanitizer, masks, and such. I did get a chance last week, as things took off in such a hurry here, we didn't have a good chance to physically organize the Emergency Operations Center. And Diane Booth, of course, has her day-to-day operations, so Diane and I worked together and we kind of reorganized our area over there, and she sectioned us off a little bit so we're a little more private. We kind of rearranged so we're appropriately social distancing, and also made room for Elsa Lundy, our AmeriCorps person, so she will have a work area there too should she need that. I continue to meet with the state and regional partners. I meet with the state Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll meet with them this afternoon. Should be an interesting meeting with the civil unrest also happening. The state also started sending out situation reports one directly from John Harrington. John is the Commissioner of Public Safety under the Governor, and he oversees emergency management. So I get a situation report from him regarding COVID. I get a situation report from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension regarding COVID, and I now get a third situational daily report regarding the civil unrest. So it's very up-to-date information. It's helpful for me to, to stay abreast of things. I was looking at the Governor Walz's executive orders, his new executive orders to the civil unrest, and I didn't realize there was this many, but there's been 63 executive orders COVID-related since January 9th to present, and now 6 more with the civil unrest. So that's pretty amazing. Mr. Chair, I could speak briefly to the civil unrest if that's appropriate.
Yes, I think that would be good. Thank you.
Our region, our 11 county region, is on a similar to what we have here in Cook County. Is our code red, but we use St. Louis County's emergency alert system, which is an Everbridge system. So all of us, all 11 counties, 5 tribes in the city of Duluth are on that. So we can call a meeting on a moment's notice. So Sunday evening, we called an emergency meeting to just do situational awareness throughout our region. And as you may have heard, the city of Duluth had some instances. St. Louis County and Virginia and Hibbing both had demonstrations. Itasca County, Grand Rapids also had a demonstration. We'll continue to meet not only for the COVID-related stuff, but now we're going to meet again to keep everybody kind of aware of what's going on within our region. Jim and I had a conference call yesterday with B.J. Colstead, the emergency manager for Lake County, just to see if we could help each other should we get something happening here within Cook County. And she actually suggested after that meeting that maybe we should meet as a larger group, like maybe at the North Shore in general, to see what we have available for law enforcement. As you know, we do not have a lot of resources for this type of a situation. Rena called a meeting yesterday with myself, County Attorney Molly Hicken, Sheriff Patty Liason, Public Health Grace Grininger, and myself and Jim, just to have beginning conversations regarding should we have something within the county. And Pat pointed out that he has limited resources, and the other law enforcement within the we just do not have a lot of law enforcement should something break loose up here. So it's a good conversations. Jim and I will be working on anything we can dig out as to what we have plans in place, or other ways that we can work with Lake County to just make sure we're prepared. So that's what we'll be working on there. Just a note of I don't know if it's interest or not. It's kind of sad to me. B.J. Colstead has been the emergency manager in Lake County since I've been around. That's almost 10 years. She put in her resignation yesterday, but she'll be with us throughout the summer. Her last day is August 31. So that is what I have for you today.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for all you're doing again, and especially these new developments that we have to plan for. And it sounds like a very good plan, the best we can do with what we got, and working on how we can work together with the others. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one more thing.
Sure.
I like to bring some good news, too. The good news is that the things that we have in place for COVID, such as the PPE I spoke of earlier, should we have, we have a fairly adequate supply. So should we need that for our response for a civil unrest, we do have that. The other things in place is, people are anxious about the COVID and now adding the stress. We do have mental health resources available. So some of the things we have available for COVID are really going to help us should we have something else in the county. So that's the good news.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, questions or comments for our Emergency Management Director, Commissioner DeShaw?
No questions.
Commissioner Dukert?
Thank you, Mike. And that's going to be some big shoes to fill down in Lake County. I don't have any sympathy for them. And you can't leave. You have to stay here, just in case you were thinking of going further back the door. That's it.
Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mike, for the update, and especially appreciate the update regarding the civil unrest. And yeah, I think our resources are pretty limited, but we have a pretty strong, tight-knit community up here. So I think we're staying tuned and being sensitive to the situation. So thank you.
Commissioner Storley?
Again, Mike, thanks for all you do and coordination and reaching out and keeping us informed. Over.
Very good. And again, thanks to both of you for all you're doing. And it seems like with your input and the work of the commissioners, a special thanks to Commissioner Mills for our travel advisory work and all those that had input into that. So we'll continue with that and revisit it when appropriate. Administrator update. Interim Administrator Rogers, would you give your report at this time, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Just a few things this morning. One, first, just a comment about the travel advisory. I also received a couple of comments from the public in general, thanking us for keeping this out there in the public, just in the ether, so that people knew that where you stood and that you supported these great public health practices. Also, in conversations with the reopening group, the business group, they felt like it was consistent with their messaging. And so I applaud this board for finding that right balance. And I think going forward, we can continue to make statements in support of our public health directives in a way that hopefully is less controversial and just shows leadership. Conversations in the EOC related to COVID, Mike mentioned that, and we're going to, related to the unrest that's going on and just possible scenarios we need to react to. And we'll continue working on that to plan the best way we can. We had our monthly MAT meeting yesterday, our management team meeting, and mostly it was a roundtable going around and checking in with everybody about how their staff were doing, working remotely, and how services were being supported, if they felt there was a need to bring people back in, or if this was going well. And I think universally people were saying staff was pretty comfortable working remotely, and they were able to address all of the work almost as normal, which really has some, I think, things that we can think about in the future when this is all done in terms of how we construct our buildings and just future building projects in general, knowing that remote work works in many cases for people. We're continuing to work on some pieces of opening. I would like for us to continue to keep our buildings closed as much as possible to the public, but the courts will ask us to be open for events, and we're working with them to see what that looks like, and also working with Auditor Powers about how we manage elections going forward, and doing that sort of partial openings. So that's what I've got for today. I'll take any questions.
If there's any questions, I'll do a roll call quickly, and I know Commissioner Dukirk has to leave soon, so Commissioner Dukirk, any questions or comments for our administrator?
Thank you, Rena, for keeping all of those lovely juggling balls in the air and moving around and responding to everything as it comes at you. And Myron, thank you for letting me chime in. I am going to sign off after this. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you. You too. Okay, Commissioner Mills?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Rena, for your work and the update.
Okay, Commissioner DeShaw?
No questions.
Okay. Commissioner Storley?
No questions other than thanks again, Rena, for all that you're coordinating and doing and attending. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, and I would certainly like to reinforce that, working with you. There's a lot of challenges and demands, and you're doing very well with it. It's not easy, and but unusual times, but I think we're doing unusually well considering, so thanks for your role in that.
Thank you, sir.
With that, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Commissioner Mills. I'll move to adjourn. Over.
Okay, support from anyone?
Support. Storley.
Okay,
over.
Commissioner Storley. We'll do a roll call on that. Commissioner DeShaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills?
This is Commissioner Mills. Aye.
Commissioner Storley?
Aye. Over.
Commissioner Bersheim's aye. So with that, wish all our listeners and the rest of you, the commissioners and all those involved in our meeting today, to have a wonderful day. It's nice and sunny, and hope that everyone stays safe and works together. With that, we will adjourn the meeting.